All right. For this video, we will be covering the NCO evaluation report, also known as the NCOER. So, things that we're going to cover is describe the responsibilities of the rater, senior rater, and supplementary reviewer, describe the two different types of NCOERs, and compare the DA forms between the two different types of actual NCOERs. So, first off, we're just going to kind of talk about is the actual rating chain. So this is exactly who will be making the evaluation as far as the person who is getting rated during that time. So you have the rater, and that is the first line supervisor of that individual getting rated. Okay. Then you have the senior rater, which is two positions above the person who is actually getting their performance evaluated. And then you have a supplemental reviewer. All right. They are making sure that the report is clear, it's fair, it's done correctly. Okay. So you can kind of see the diagram, right? So down here, you have a whole bunch of sergeants with their rater being staff sergeants. All right. And then ultimately, their senior rater would be a sergeant first class. Now, in the event of a staff sergeant, right, their rater would be a sergeant first class. And then ultimately, their senior rater would be the lieutenant. Okay. Now, as far as supplementary reviewers go, all right, there is some qualifications that need to be met for a supplementary reviewer. Okay. So if the senior rater is not a captain or above, then the evaluation report must have a supplementary reviewer that is a captain or above. But if the senior rater is a captain or above, that they do not have that requirement. Okay. So just kind of understand that is when you actually would need a supplementary reviewer. Biggest takeaway if there's not a captain already listed between the rater or senior rater, then a supplementary reviewer is required. Okay. So, types of NCOERs. So, here you have a very, very long list of different ones, and we're just going to cover a few of these. So, a change of rater. So, that means that in the event that you move to a new position, you take on, different responsibilities to where now the person that you're working directly for changes out, or if that person just happens to leave for whatever reason, whether that's, planned or unplanned, then a change of rater would actually qualify. An annual one is probably the most common one. So every 12 months, an NCO is required to have a evaluation report done. All right. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is the most common one. All right. Then we have the extended annual. Okay. So there's certain times during an NCO's career to where that they will have what they call is non-rated time. And that is usually because they went off and attended some type of schooling or something of that sort to where it did not actually count against their time. Most of the time, you'll find that is when the NCO attends an NCO academy, they will receive what is called a 1059 student evaluation report. And so that time will actually not count against them. So an extended annual would be, that they are over the 12 months, but because that time was not counted, then on calendar wise, it's over 12 months, but you would extend it out until you have been actually overseeing that person and what they've been doing for a solid 12 months. Okay. Change of duty, you have temporary duty, special duty, or temporary change of station, relief for cause. So if that individual was removed for some reason due to, say, misconduct or just loss of trust, then you would do a relief for cause. Now, a complete the record would be done is if they had some type of board evaluation coming up and they wanted a fresh new NCOER to make sure that it captured their most recent performance. Okay. Then you have your senior rater option and 60-day option. All right. So you see this, there's a whole bunch of arrows, pointing at all the different ones. All right. So the first off, let's just talk about this form on your left-hand side of your screen. Okay. So this is done for sergeants. All right. This form on your right-hand side of your screen is done for staff sergeants through first sergeant or master sergeants. All right. So E6 through E8. And this is just for E5s. Okay. So there is a lot of similarities, but then there is also some key differences. Okay. So particularly the first portions of this NCOER that we're going to, cover will all be the same. And then I will point out the differences as we come to them. Okay. So you have your administrative portion up here at the block. All right. So this is basically just their name, their DOD ID number, rank, data rank, and then their primary MOS. Now, again, this is their primary MOS. All right. So this is what they have done and what they are actually qualified to do. The reason I point that out is because it is different from their actual duty MOS. Okay. You have your unit, status code, all right, UIC, and reason for submission. Reason for submission would be, as we just covered, whether that was an annual, a change of rater, extended annual, so on and so forth. Period covered, all right, from and through. So this is the beginning and this is the end dates. Okay. Now for an annual, it needs to equal out to 12 months. All right. For a change of rater or relief for cause, all right, then that would mean that this right here, the rated months would be lower than 12. Okay. Now for an extended annual, these dates would equal more than 12 months, but the actual rated months here would just still be 12 months. Then you have email addresses, okay, and that is the administrative data for the NCOER. Now, it is exactly the same over here on your right hand side of your screen for the staff sergeant and master sergeant. Okay, it's all exactly the same. All right, so now we go down to part two, authentication. Okay, so here you would have the raters, all right, name, you would have their DOD ID number, all right, and ultimately, eventually, they would sign it when they are done filling out this form. Again, they would not sign it though until the form is complete. Okay, you have their rank, primary MOS or branch, organization, duty assignment, and their email address. Okay. Then you have your senior rater, same type of information. And then down here, you would have the supplementary reviewer if it's required. So again, if the rater or senior rater is not a captain or above, then it is required that there is a supplementary reviewer. Okay. Then you have the counseling dates. So an NCO is required to be counseled at least quarterly. So every 3 months, all right, they should be counseled. Now, you will see that there is only three kind of blocks after the initial, right? Because that means that the fourth and final one would be the actual NCOER itself. So you have the initial within 30 days of the rated period, 30 days after, 30 days after, 30 days after, and then finally it would actually be, all right, the NCOER itself. Then the NCO would sign, all right, and the NCO is that's being rated is the last one to sign. Okay. Then down here you have the principal duty title and then the duty MOS. So remember up here, as I talked about, is the primary MOS. So for an example, if say an infantryman is put on recruiting duty, then this duty MOS would be the MOS for recruiting. So up here for infantry and the primary MOS would kind of read 11 Bravo, but down here it would read 79 Romeo because that is the current job that they are doing. Okay, so just understand that it can be different from the primary MOS to their duty MOS. Okay. Then down here is a nice long explanation of their daily duties and scopes. Okay. You want to be specific and make sure you capture ultimately what they are responsible for. All right. As far as that position goes. Now, areas of special interest. Okay. Or emphasis. These are things that you want to highlight that you will eventually talk about on the reverse side of this sheet. Okay, so maybe they conducted a live fire exercise that you are going to explain on the back of the sheet. Maybe they ran a very good Army combat physical fitness test, so you want to highlight that. Just things that you want to make sure that you highlight. And this is where you can kind of spell out some of those acronyms, all right, here to where on the backside, when you don't have as much room, you can shorten it by using those acronyms. Appointed duties, okay? So make sure that these are real appointed duties and that they are actually put on orders. Don't just start throwing in appointed duties because you want to kind of beef up this evaluation. They actually need to be appointed by the commander, all right, for something to go here. All right. So common appointed duties would be say the victim's advocate as part of the SHARP program or the equal opportunity advisor. Okay. So again, looking on the right side of the screen, all right, we have covered the authentication piece and the duty description. Okay. So now we are going to get into performance evaluation portion of the actual NCOER. All right. So the first thing is the APFT. Now the system is still working on getting this corrected to actually state ACFT, but it is required that you fill out whether they passed it, they did not pass, or that they were unable to take it. Okay. In this block, you can add their score if you wish to choose to. All right, you do not have to, but it is recommended that you put their actual ACFT score. Okay. Then down here, you have character, and this is where you're going to talk about the Army values. All right. So you really want to kind of highlight how that rated NCO has, demonstrated Army values during the rated period. And you can see on the right hand side of the screen, it is the exact same. All right, now moving on. All right, so now we get to the back side of the form. So this is where the big differences come between the sergeant evaluation form, located here on the left side of the screen, and the staff sergeant through first sergeant, master sergeant evaluation form. Okay, so I will just go ahead and point out some key differences. So when you're checking the boxes to whether they on how well they did during that performance on the sergeant one, it's either that they did not meet standard or they met the standard. Okay, those are your only two options for the sergeant evaluation report. Okay, now if you go to the staff sergeant and above evaluation report, you will see that there's now four blocks. It's did not meet, met standard, exceeded the standard, or far exceeded the standard. Okay, so that is the first big difference between the two evaluation forms. Okay, and you will see that it is like that all the way through all the leadership attributes and competencies. Okay, then when you get to Raider overall performance, all right, you will check, all right, on the staff sergeant and above whether they far exceeded, met, or did not meet. On the sergeant evaluation report, you will not. You will just put, all right, your overall observations as far as their performance goes. Okay. Then when you get to senior raider potential, okay, senior raider potential is still pretty close, all right, on both forms. But the big key difference is that the senior raider is limited on how many times that they can actually use the most qualified. All right, on the sergeant one, they can give as many qualified as or most qualified as they would like to. Now, this right here is done in narrative. All right, everything above here is all bullet points. All right, but down here in the senior raider overall potential on both forms, it is done in narrative format. Okay. Then you have successive assignments. So whether, so down here you would put where you see that NCO or where they could best serve the Army, all right, in the next 3 to 5 years. So if they are, say, a sergeant fire team leader, you may put squad leader, platoon sergeant, and maybe drill sergeant. All right. If they are, say, a staff sergeant, then you may put platoon sergeant, operation sergeant, and drill sergeant. Okay. So it all really kind of depends. You can reach out to the senior NCO in your organization and they can help you with that. All right, so those are the key differences of the forms. Now let's talk about what you actually put in the comment section. Okay, so each section can hold up to 3 bullet points, and each bullet point can be up to 2 lines. All right, that is it. That's what you're capped at. So that's what I was talking about on the first portion of the form as far as using acronyms. Okay, but do not use acronyms unless you have spelled it out at some point during the form. Okay, so every single comment will start with a lowercase o, followed by a space, and then you will write out your comment. Now, everything is done in bullet point, and so that they are not actually full sentences. So you will not use periods at the end of any of the bullets. Okay. You will not start off with a capital letter unless it is, say, someone's name, all right, or some type of other noun, okay? But with that, every single bullet point, all right, needs to start, all right, with an adverb. Okay. It must have some type of action, and every bullet point needs to be in the past tense because you have evaluated that individual. So just understand every single bullet point needs to be in the past tense. Okay. So that is the overview of the NCOERs. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to your instructor, or if you are at the force, reach out to a senior NCO in your organization.